Peter.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Liking the setup behind you. Looks like you're very well settled into the home office.
This is designed just to make me look smart, but it's just a bunch of books.
My eyes just keep on getting drawn to all of the titles. So everyone who's listening, Peter and I go back a long way, and something I have a huge amount of respect for you, Peter, is your physical pursuits that you mix in with your work. And you've always been someone who's been very disciplined about that the whole time I've known you.
Yeah, look, I guess being Australian, I grew up outdoors, and I go a bit stir crazy if I can't exercise. So I've always had a passion for endurance. So I'm massively into cycling, and then maybe more recently, probably a little bit of a hint of age as well, I've gotten into yoga. So I think that combination keeps me both aerobically fit, but also a little bit more mobile, and I love that. So there's nothing better for me than learning how to do a handstand or go on an epic climb somewhere. So I love that. That gives me a lot of energy.
And we could go down a whole other tangent here because I really think about the same things at our point in life in terms of extending our flexibility to enjoy life. Now, Peter, you're doing a global role out of Hong Kong with Schneider Electric, and Schneider is a fascinating company which moved to a really unique operating model some years ago around how employees are distributed around the globe. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, Matt. I think Schneider went through a really big acquisition period over about 10 years, where it grew from being probably a very French-focused company with a few other interests globally to then growing up and becoming more of a multinational, a traditional multinational. And then it realized it needed to get to that next level of growth to meet the strategy and the ambition. So there was a concerted effort by Jean-Pascal Tricoire, the CEO at the time, and also still CEO, to say we need to be less French and more of a global company with a global plan and a global strategy. And that really meant, first of all, for Jean-Pascal himself, relocating and being based in Hong Kong to say we're a truly global company and we want to be close to our markets. And also putting in place an operating model which is less the central headquarters and then lots of satellites, and saying, actually, we need to be more of a hub model. And for two reasons. One, it helps people get closer to customers. So our C-suite and the executive leaders in the company are spread globally in a more balanced way. And secondly, it also allows us to grow talent in those hubs and the satellites around those hubs. So we put a lot of effort and energy into growing Asian leaders in our Asian hubs, so Hong Kong, Singapore, also in the Middle East. So we're growing talent in those local areas, and the same in North America, South America, as well as in Europe. And that's really different to the traditional model, which is all of the talent and a lot of the decision-making happens remotely from one central place and everyone else executes. And we realized that wasn't going to be fit for the purpose of getting really close to customers and being, I guess, much more on the demand side of the energy strategy that we were really going for. So to get close to customers and to be a bit more nimble meant busting that traditional leadership model. That was really the intention. And having worked in Schneider now coming up to 5 years, I've really seen that lived out. It's quite fascinating.
So this model, and a lot of the world has had to go to virtual working or hybrid models, must have given some sort of, I won't say advantage, but less complication coming into this new world.
There's definitely been less of a ripple effect. So what we saw, we've just got some employee engagement data that we've just run, particularly with a focus on what's been happening through the pandemic. We weren't expecting this, but all of the data in terms of the employee engagement scores went up, not down. So, and we were fascinated by this because it's a bit counterintuitive, but collaboration has gone up. So the scores on collaboration, a sense of being connected to the leadership and to the decision-making, a sense of confidence in leadership. an understanding of the company's strategy, and a sense of being protected and being cared for. All of these scores went up. And we were a little bit confused because we were expecting people to be very fearful, and we were expecting people to feel really dislocated as a result of what was happening. But what we actually saw is resilience. And it'll be interesting to see as we measure this over the next 12, 18 months, whether that stays. But for us, it told us that some of the things that we've been working on, so building hybrid models, also trying to create more flexible ways of working and putting that into policy in our HR policy and our practices, has started to pay dividends. We had around about 94% of our, what we call our connected workforce, worked from home over the past 5 months or so at one stage or another. And they felt that they had the tools and they had the ability to keep working. And in many ways, their relational experiences went up, not down, not just with each other, but with their customers. That's interesting as well.
Now, you talked about business and digital transformation when we were chatting before coming onto this onto this call. Take us through that.
Yeah. So the other big ambition for Schneider is over the past few years is, look, I guess a lot like other product companies, we really wanted to move from being a box seller. So it's all about the product, and we've got amazing products. Someone showed me the other day an electrical switch, which, you know, it was 80 years old and was designed to, you know, it has to work when it works, only if it's ever used once in maybe a manufacturing facility. So, you know, those sorts of products, right through to sensors and the idea of building a platform or an ecosystem of software and products. So we've been evolving the company over the past 5 or 6 years to be a full suite, full service type organization. That matters, especially now, because automating industrial processes, because we make industrial automation products and services, and also being more energy efficient, which is the other part of our business. That makes sense when we're in a world where the demands on energy go up, but also, particularly what we're seeing now in the current crisis, is our customers had to find new ways of staying open. The continuity of their business needed to be vital, and that has really paid dividends for us. So that's been the focus. And I was just sharing with you before, it was actually published in HBR late last year, the Harvard Business Review, that Schneider was sort of seen as one of the top 20 examples or case studies of business transformation in the last decade, in terms of its focus on moving from product to a platform business, and really being viable in more ways than just being great at manufacturing and distributing discrete products. So that's been the big focus. That also meant we needed to build leadership that also reflected what we were trying to do with the strategy. So we put a big investment in what types of leaders we need to reflect the business that we needed to become. And that's been about helping our leaders let go of being, high control, classical engineering type, high monitoring leaders, to enablers, to freeing up their energy, focusing on strategy, and also being more comfortable with disruption. So that was the other big shift. And we put a huge effort in building sort of a systemic approach to leadership development, as an example, to get our leaders into that different space. So what we're seeing now is the dividend of that. So a lot more comfort with, thinking about remote working, thinking about automated processes. Those sorts of things are, I think, much more in the language of the company and the culture of the company now than what it was perhaps before.
And as we conclude, any sort of personal theories or philosophies around where we're going?
Yeah, a bit of a mixed bag. So I don't want to be a pessimist. I'm always an optimist, Matt. But I think there's two, maybe a devil and an angel on each shoulder. The devil is saying, be careful of some of the data that's coming out right now and the research coming out right now about, the golden age of working from home. I'm not 100% sure about that. So you hear people citing productivity going up. Is it productivity or is it anxiety? I think a lot of people are worried about their jobs. So they're working 24/7, they're being 100% responsive instead of setting boundaries around how to work and manage themselves when they're not in a traditional office. So that's the worry I have. The optimist in me says, if we can really allow people more flexibility and we can figure out how to collaborate across time zones and in sort of these 24-hour cycles, I think we can unlock huge amounts of creativity and huge amounts of productivity. So I'm seeing both in our experiments and our practices. I'm leaning more toward being the optimist, but being connected doesn't always mean being present. And I think that's the big technical and psychological challenge that we're going to have with our workforce. So that's what we're working a lot on at the moment.